Hell yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host Matt. Hey Matt.
Hey, Kat. Hey, everyone. How are you?
Oh my goodness, March Madness. It is coming to an end.
Is it? Doesn't it go until like April?
Well, it does, but March being over is what I was going with.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's very soon.
Which actually it does go to April too, like you were saying.
It does. There you go.
However, next week is April
Yep, that's true.
on Tuesday.
Yeah. So, yeah. This is the last episode of what season? 15?
15.
Yeah. See, I knew it at the beginning of the season, but yeah. Yeah, so last episode of season 15.
And the last episode of March and the last time that we'll be saying anything about season 15,
No, we'll
beginning
probably talk
of
about it next time.
we won't remember what it was.
Right, yeah. I forget it.
Remember when we had that one season?
Right. What season is this?
Yeah. Was that this year?
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I mean, it has been a great season. And I think because of it being, you got January in there, February, like you had a lot of snow, it's been in some ways, like a really long quarter of 2025.
yeah, we didn't really record anything in the beginning of the year. I think we took the whole month of January off, the slackers that we are. And,
Well, we were working behind the scenes with, getting guests and all of
right,
that
yeah,
stuff. So,
yeah. Just not releasing
I got
episodes.
married and my band was, like I've had it's been a year and it's only been 3 months.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully now that spring is here, it has officially begun, I think. Hopefully it, you know, gets better and warmer.
Well, April showers supposed to bring May flowers.
Yep, that's what they say, but my flowers are already blooming up here.
Well, you're supposed to, as a joke would go, what does a Mayflower bring?
Oh, right, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it is a good sign always when the flowers are there. I always like wait for you to say that because it gives me hope.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we're gonna get some cold weather next week, but we'll see.
Well, we're supposed to get tornadoes and all that stuff, so you just never know. It's the weather. It's been a mixture for sure of snow and 80. It's been 80 degrees this week.
Yeah, it was 80 something here yesterday. So
Yeah.
pretty weird.
Well, it was here as well, and we had a show, and
Oh, yes, the birthday show. How did that go?
it was wonderful. By all accounts, it looked like that the birthday girl had a great celebration, and with all her friends, and it was really fun, like getting to customize a script, for the friends that were there
Right.
and work them into the plot. That was super fun as a writer, and I know the actors had a blast.
All right. Well, that's good. What else have we got going on here? Let's see.
Well, I wanted to say one more thing about this. So,
Oh, go ahead.
so we were only part of the birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the beginning part. And then there was a DJ set up, to finish out her party.
Right.
But, they were very gracious and kind. It was a very just, grand celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And so the actors, of course, they were offered to be able to eat after the show.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
there's a nice patio area, where the DJ
Hmm.
had set up for the dance floor, and a nice breeze blowing after that, high 80s. And it was just really cool to be sitting there, and it was a very nice sky and all of that. But so the DJ took requests, and, I don't know like what the ages were, it's hard for me to like look at people and tell, because sometimes I look at people in college and I think they're like in high school or younger, and
That's because
you
you're
know
old.
the ages were, but you can usually, tell by music choices. But there is a lot of variety. And so there were four of us at my table,
Hmm.
and Sweet Caroline came on, which I love that song. And I just think everybody loves that song. But
Who doesn't love Neil Diamond?
yeah, well, my Aunt Pauline, he was her favorite singer. I mean, she went to see him in concert. She was like crazy about him.
Hmm.
I won't go that far. I'll just say that like I always say, I like Sweet Caroline. I love that song.
Hmm.
And it's just one that, I've watched videos, like they always film it, and on St. Patrick's Day or different times you just see people in bars just breaking out singing it.
Yep.
So, one of the people at our table had to leave, and I'm like, you can't leave before the chorus, because everybody, you have to sing that,
Loudly
But
too. Yes.
it just took me back to, like happy times in my past, really thinking of my aunt, and also, just like in carefree young times of hearing that song. And it's a happy song to me. So,
Hmm.
uh, I just wanted to share that that was a great part of the whole birthday experience, even though it's not my birthday. Somebody there made a great song choice. I'll just say that.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And there's so many songs to choose from when you're
Old.
having a birthday party.
uh, yeah, that's for sure. What else is going on? Anything else interesting?
Well, we have a new show, coming in for May. So that's
Oh
pretty.
yeah, mystery meat. Yeah. So that's the animal one you're doing?
Yes, the most human. So it is a lot of the characters are animals, all except two.
Hmm.
I mean, so the actors are playing animals. I should say that we're not actually.
Yeah. Right.
I guess be directing like a poodle and
Yeah.
a bird and all these things. Or you
Yeah.
stand there, okay? So it's not like that. The human actors are playing animals,
Hmm.
except for two actors are humans playing humans.
Hmm.
And we're donating the proceeds of the shows to two different animal organizations. And one is Kerrigan's Little Cat Rescue.
Hmm.
And she, she started this. It's pretty interesting. She started this pre-COVID, and she's a teenager, but now she's like 17, I think, and she's been doing it, since like 5 years, whatever. And she rescues kittens, and she raises money to, get them spayed, neutered, whatever they need, medicine,
Hmm.
and then adopted. So it's a great service to the community.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the other one is Forever Friends, and they're in Corbin, Kentucky. And they have a little different approach. So they take funding, they do fundraisers, that kind of thing to raise money. And then they send the money out to like vets, if an animal gets hit, let's say, and,
Oh
nobody
yeah.
knows who it belongs to, and the vet, tries to take care of it.
Right.
So they send money out for that, or spay neuter for people that maybe can't afford it. So, they just really are like a funding for a lot of different animal
Hmm.
organizations. So that's also very cool. It takes, everybody doing, whether you're like a respite home,
Right.
keep them just a little while until they can, just because nobody wants to euthanize them, or that animal shelters often are so, crowded. And so it does take a lot of people just to save the animals.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how many shows are you doing of that one?
Right. So we have two scheduled for this one, and it's probably what we're going to be able to work in, simply because May, if you want to look at a calendar
Hmm.
for May,
Yeah.
you have Mother's Day weekend,
Yeah.
you have Memorial Day weekend, you have graduation weekend,
Yeah.
like, and we do our shows on the weekend. So there's just in May, really, that's all we were able to fit in schedule wise. I mean, it's not to say that if, maybe in June an animal organization out there wanted to partner with us,
Right.
as a fundraiser, we might could schedule something in the future, but that's all we can fit in for May.
Hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot to compete with for sure.
Yeah, and and for the actors as well, like mothers, a lot of them are
Hmm.
mothers,
Yeah.
and you know, then June comes up and you got Father's Day. You don't have as many things in June, but
My
a lot of
birthday.
people take vacation, and the king's birthday.
That's right.
That's right. So,
And we're not talking Elvis either.
no, I mean, we're talking the king, Matt Rivenburg.
That's right. Yeah. So, so beyond that show, do you know what your next one is, or you haven't gotten that far yet?
Well, I got that far. If you will like partner with me to ride it, I really want us to do a form of love and jello. And oh, incidentally, I did sign a book last night that someone had purchased of Love and Jello, and I just had to be the one to autograph it. And
Really?
yeah, yeah, I did.
So somebody brought the book for you to
They
autograph?
did. They brought they brought the book and asked if I would sign it, and so I was like, sure. And
Wow.
my penmanship, and you can imagine now that I got like a fractured wrist, and
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
so. But I did try to write something cute and as legible, and I made my little line, and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
But
Um,
it looks different, really, than the copies that we have. It had like, I don't know, and maybe I'm just like not remembering it correctly, but it had like that, copyright page, and like it had some pages like that, and then so I was like, where do I sign this?
huh. That's weird.
So yeah, but I thought that was cool, and I just now I'm remembering to tell you. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Wow. That's pretty cool. I have a
I
couple
was gonna
people.
take a picture and send to you, but I forgot to do that.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple people at work who are interested in reading it and have asked me about it. So, I get some sales. For those who don't remember or don't know, Love and Jello is the book that Kat and I wrote a few years back. It's available on Amazon and a couple other places. And yeah, we shipped out a bunch of copies and signed a bunch of copies, and kind of interesting doing all that for the first time.
And it's a really endearing story. I mean, it really, it's a heartfelt, but also humorous, and that's why I think it would make a great mystery meets show. And we haven't done one really with, elderly
Mm-hmm.
characters.
Yeah.
So we've done corporate kindergarten and kind of went, the other
Right.
direction.
Yeah.
So I would, I just think it would be a fun August kind of show.
Well, we'll have to think about how to do that. I don't know what the plot would be, but yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's my plan. And So generally, I just have to figure out the way to get it, you know, done. And usually you just come around and like, your mind thinks of what's the right thing and we just do it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Anyway.
yeah.
All right. Well, our guest this week is.
Yeah, so I had the privilege of interviewing Whey Jennings, and he is a singer and songwriter. Very fascinating story. You know, I admire and in some ways like share that belief about art and how like that's the thing that makes me feel the happiest is when art can do something good,
Mm-hmm.
beyond just like, okay, we heard Sweet Caroline, that makes people happy. So that is, in some ways, that is going beyond just a nice song,
Mm-hmm.
But like if we're able to help the animals, for instance, through, writing a show, performing a show, that's meaningful to me. And when I spoke with him, his latest album, this is a debut album, Jekyll and Hyde. And so, as you will hear when we speak, Jekyll and Hyde is about the dark time and the better time, of his life
Mm-hmm.
with addiction issues. And he is using the power of music, the talent that he has for music to give hope, hopefully, is the goal to people that hear his music and, are wanting, maybe they're feeling like there's no hope. And he then is, a good example that he was there in their shoes and now, he can give them hope through this project that he has created. And I think it's just absolutely amazing when people use their work for, even greater good.
Mm-hmm.
So Wade Jennings is our guest, and I just really I hope that this episode is heard by so many people. And if the listeners, most people have been affected. Would you say, by addiction,
I would.
whether
I
they were
would. Yeah. I mean, I would say in maybe one way or another. Sure.
so, share this episode. Like it takes 2 seconds to send the link to someone. But, if you know someone that maybe needs that hope, send them the episode and, you know, maybe it will be just at the right time. And he talks about that. So I'm really also pleased with us in the podcast that we're able to get a great backstory, meet a very talented musician, singer, songwriter, but also be a part of, spreading this message of sobriety and getting to that point.
All right. Well, let's talk to Way and find out his story and yeah, see what this is all about. Oh, wait, before we do that, I just wanted to say, you know, I, it's the end of the season and I just wanted to say thank you to all the listeners. We've had a huge, huge following the last bit of time. And it's pretty interesting. We're reaching a lot more people and Romania is coming in hot, I guess. They're so anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to all the listeners for listening and supporting us and we'll see you next season.
Yeah. Wade Jennings, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. It's really an honor to have you as our guest today.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, a couple of things come to mind as we get started talking about your new album. Jekyll and Hyde. It has a kind of duality, I guess, in that title. So, do you find that to be the way that your music is there like a message of duality that made you choose that title or
Yeah, definitely. I spent most of my life in the darkness, doing bad things, making wrong decisions. And about 5 years ago, I started doing things right, gave my life to God, got sober, and started really focusing on family and career and God, And so, in order to tell a story like I have, you have to start, you know, with Hyde and kind of end up with Jekyll. So the song Jekyll and Hyde is a song about what could happen if you don't keep your inner demons at bay. So that's what I've been spending my life doing is keeping my inner demons at bay, because you're always going to have that voice in your ear saying, you can have one, you can do this, you can do that. And the fact is about it, you really can't. At least not if you're trying to live the way I'm trying to live. I'm trying to be a good example to my family and my children, and also to the people who listen to my music and come to my shows. And I'm trying to, trying to be a better person than I once was.
well, when we go back, to the darker side, when did that begin?
Oh, I was probably about 13 years old when I started going down the wrong path. When I was really young, I played football, and they had this rule: no pass, no play. And I got hurt pretty bad, and I was like, being a dumb kid, I was like, well, no play, no pass. So I started running around with the wrong kids and doing the wrong things, and my life kind of spiraled out of control in a pretty fast fashion. It's kind of the cliche way of doing it. I started smoking cigarettes, and then I started smoking weed, and I started doing drugs. Only I didn't take just small steps. I started doing it was just like bam, 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 bam. I started once I headed in the wrong direction, I took off running in that direction, and it kind of warped my moral structure. I didn't see things right. I didn't really have a conscience to speak of. It's just like my preacher later in life told me that thing about it is if you don't believe in God and you don't have a higher power in your life, then absolutely nothing you do is wrong because you don't have any kind of moral structure to put that up against to measure what's right and wrong. If there's no consequences ultimately, then nothing you do is wrong. I didn't ever understand that when I was young, but he was right. I didn't look at anything like I was doing anything wrong. I was like, when you're a young boy, like you chase after, young women and you do what young boys do. And in my neighborhood, everybody was drinking and smoking and just partying their lives away, thinking they was having a good time. And turns out I was destroying my life for a lot of years. And whenever I got older, you know, I was still on the wrong path. It took me a long time to get off that path, And it's like when I met who's my wife, the woman who's my wife now. When I met her, there was something different about her. You know what I mean? But I still ran out and I cheated on her. And at that point, when I lost her, I knew I'd lost something. You know, and it's like something totally changed inside of me. I wanted to do better. I wanted to do different. And I seeked out the God that I once pushed away, and went to rehab, got myself sober, and been pushing towards having a very integrity driven life lately. I want to be a good Christian man, a good representation of what a man should be for my sons, a good representation of what a man looks like for the men that they seek out, that my daughters seek out whenever they get older. And I just want to be a better human than I was, you know.
So, in meeting what would be your wife, and you talked about, that you knew she was different. Was that one of the first times that, like, when you lost her, was that one of the first times that you sort of had a wake up call that, maybe there is a consequence for the actions that I've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete regret because I mean, it was like I've been with, I had other girlfriends in life, and it was kind of like I'm from Dallas, Texas. It's just young girls and I was a young boy, and I was, didn't really have any future aspirations, and she was the first one I met who really was kind of grounded in a belief system, was kind of, you know, striving to be an actual woman. You know what I mean? But not to down any of the girls I was with, but striving to be like you know, a helpmeet to a man, and like instead of just kind of being friends, she wanted to really build something, you know? And I didn't realize it at the time and what was going on, but I noticed it as soon as I lost it. I was like, there's something gone now. He's like, not, no, no, I don't really know. I don't speak well a lot of times when it comes to things like that. I'm not trying to take anything away from any woman I've ever dated. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I've got nothing bad to say about most of them. But what me and Taryn had was something completely different than anything I'd ever had with anybody. I mean, I have 6 kids, and I've had kids with a few different women, but it was like we were young and dumb and didn't really know what we wanted out of life, you know? It was just we didn't have any direction we was going. I didn't have any kind of goals really, And I began setting goals with Taryn, and I don't know what made me go back to how I was, but I did, and it woke me up pretty quick. And by the grace of God, she forgave me, and we started building life together. Because it had a lot to do with the drugs I was on. I mean, when you're on drugs, it intensifies your drive and your immorality. It just intensifies it. It just makes things that aren't okay okay. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but they did. And when I got sober, I started seeing things a lot clearer and seeing things. I could see where I was going wrong, where before I couldn't. You know, so it's just I feel like I'm a better human now than I've ever been, and I'm starting to try to put that out through my music. And you know, as soon as I gave my life to God, He started working in my life, and in the last 5 years, I've accomplished more than I did in the 14 years before that in music. Because I really wasn't trying to accomplish anything other than making a few dollars to get to the next town. And
So where did
yeah.
music begin in your life? Did you just grow up, music was a part of you?
Well, yes and no. I mean, whenever I was young, my grandfather it was like music was around all the time, and I wanted to be like him. And I went out when I was young. I went out on stage, and it was like a playground. But as soon as I hit about 13 years old, I went out there and froze like a deer in headlights. So I decided at that moment that music wasn't for me, and I went and for started working different jobs, and ended up on a cotton farm where I worked for about 10 years. It wasn't until my mama got sick, I ended up back in the music business. And then, you know, I started out for the right reasons, trying to, keep a promise to my mother. But after she passed away, I dove deep into drugs. It was just like, I just wanted the pain to go away. So I just dove into drugs and alcohol. And it was like, at that point, I just warped my whole state of being. And it's just like turned into this guy who just didn't care about anything, just having a good time. I was still nice to people and I still got along with people, I wasn't this evil thing, but I just was disconnected from reality for a long time. And it was just, it was a kind of a form of depression, I guess. And you feed that depression with drugs and alcohol and women. And that's what I did for the longest time.
So
And, you know,
when did you start songwriting?
I've been songwriting my whole life. I've always been a writer. I just never applied it to a job. Like I said, I worked on a cotton farm for about 10 years. That's a lot of time alone on a tractor. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done outside of a tractor, but once you're on a tractor, you're on it for like all day, every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. So, you put that thing in gear and you go and you just write and write and write and write and write. When you get to the end of the road, you turn back around, you go back to writing and you sing to the radio and stuff like that. And I've always done that kind of thing. And looking back, I've always had one toe in music, regardless of what I was doing. His music has always been a part of me. I just it scared me at a young age. It just when you go out on that stage and you get stage fright for the first time and you freeze and you start making up these voices laughing at you in your head and all this, and it's just it kind of scars you for a while. And then you just somewhere along the line I grew up and decided to face my fears, I guess, and just went and did it.
So, what was the first song to you that you wrote that you thought, I'm a pretty good songwriter?
Well, you know, first song I wrote that everybody liked, it was a song I wrote for my grandfather after he passed away. And it's called Missing You. And it didn't have no music to it. It was just sort of words that I sang to nothing. And it was to my grandfather. It was a letter I wrote him that I just for some reason sang to my mother. And I looked up, she was crying. And then for some reason I sang it at a bar one night and the whole bar started crying and it was like, okay, so this is what words can do.
Wow.
Even without music, you know. Poetry itself can move people, you know. Music can move people, words can move people. Words and music can completely change people. And it's like I realized fairly quick that if you do music for the right reasons and you write the right songs with the right drive behind them, you can make a profound effect on people and, make them see things they may not have seen before. And, maybe even change the direction of their life that they might be headed down the wrong path on. It's sometimes you use music, just to have a good time, just to lift everybody's spirits, everybody get happy, sit around the campfire, maybe they'll have a couple beers or whatever. Sometimes you write music that really touches on a problem that a lot of people might be going through, and you may change a life or two. But if you even change one, it was worth it, you know. And it was just when I seen what a song can do to people, I started looking for that perfect song that could just change the world. And I found a couple that's changed quite a few lives. I've written quite a few good songs that I'm proud of, enough to make me feel that I'm doing the right thing with my life. You know, so I'm gonna continue doing that. I write songs in different ways now than I used to write them. I write them with different people now than I used to write them. It just depends on where you're at when you sit down with the pen, what comes out. But I've been fortunate enough to have some pretty solid songs come out of some pretty solid places, you know?
So, how is Jekyll and Hyde like? How does it reflect the growth compared to like Gypsy Soul or Just Before the Dawn? How's it different?
Well, Gypsy Soul, I wrote most of those songs when I was, still young and crazy and wild. And, you can hear the lyrics in most of them songs that, I had a different mindset back then, you know? Like the song itself, Gypsy Soul, song about a musician that goes from town to town, meeting different women and just not sticking around. And that's who I was back then. Yeah, that's one thing you can damn well bet is on in my songs. If it's a song that I've put out, it's a song that I've lived. You know, like I lived that song. That's who I was. You know, Midnight New Mexico. That was a song. That's a song about who I was at the time. And so was Jekyll and Hyde. I didn't really write. I wrote the bridge to Jekyll and Hyde, but I knew when I heard that song that the guy I wrote it with, me and him have a lot in common. We both been down about the same path, and I felt like that song was me. And so I put that on that album. Sleeves I wrote with the same guy, and that was me and him both. I've always believed in this country. That's where one folded. I didn't write that song, but a buddy of mine did, and it's probably the strongest patriotic song I've ever heard. So that's why I put that on the album. It's just about any one of them songs. It's got something to do with something I've done or been through. You know, and it's just that's the way I believe music should be. It should reflect who you are. You know, it's okay to sing a song that's written by somebody else, but if you're gonna borrow somebody's pants, you better make sure they fit. You know.
When you look back at your music, is it like looking at a photograph of how it takes you back to, that was me at this age, that was me in this point in life? Like it sounds like each one of the songs you're talking about, that you remember exactly who you were at that moment.
I do. I do remember exactly who I was. And I've always had this thing where I sing in the moment I'm in. I write in the moment I'm in. And I'm just now starting to realize that I can't abandon my whole life. If there's a good song that comes out of who I was, I need to do that too, you know? Because the thing about it is I'm on my path and everybody else is on their path. And our paths may not align, you know what I mean? But our paths at some point in time may have. So I'm getting to where I don't mind dipping back in time and writing songs about where I once was, you know what I mean? Maybe not the deep dark parts of it, but maybe like a moment in time that I lived,
Hmm.
you know? Like I may not be drinking and drugging anymore, but a good drinking song is, it helps people through something sometimes. And it maybe not glorify the drinking, maybe it make it a drinking song that winds up exactly where it wound up for me in a gutter. But sometimes it takes a good parable to get people to go forward, you know? And songs are meant to be generative, man. They're meant to be something that people latch onto and grow off of. It's just that's what a song is meant to be. It's meant to be a learning experience. It's meant to be an escape from where you're at and taking a trip to somewhere you want to be and making it possible in your mind. It's just music is stronger than people give it credit for. Music is very, very, very strong. It's probably stronger than anything else on earth other than God himself. So,
Well, and it seems to be an excellent tool to reach people and, make that connection with where they are in life and how it, maybe connects with where you've been or where you currently are. This album has a wide range of topics, from love to addiction. So, was there one song in particular that was the most difficult to write?
oh yeah, definitely. Sleeves was pretty hard. That one was pretty hard to write. I had to dip back in my past pretty far for that one. That's a perfect example of what I was just speaking of. It's not where I'm at today, but that's the crowd I'm trying to reach is the people like I used to be. You know what I mean? Because whenever I was there, I didn't think there was a way out. I was like, this is my path. This was my destiny and this is how I'm going to be the rest of my life. You know? And that couldn't have been further from the truth. So if I can stand up and show a bunch of people who are where I was, where I'm at today, and show them that that's not the truth, that you're lying to yourself, and that's something I'm willing to do. And that's what me and Wes were both trying to accomplish with Sleeves, as we were trying to show everybody that just because you're down in the darkness right now, there's two ways out. There's recovery and there's death. Those are the only two. It's kind of what Sleeves shows you. It's like one of them dies and one of them goes to rehab at the end. And it's a dark song. It's hard to listen to. It's hard to write and it's hard to sing. But I feel like I talk to people more about that song than I talk about any song at the shows. Because even if somebody's not on drugs, don't mean they don't know somebody who is or have lost somebody that they love to it. Or, there's all kinds of angles that people can come from when it comes to drug addiction, whether they're in it themselves or somebody they loves in it or somebody they loves loved ones in it. I mean, it's just, it's something that affects us all.
Did you ever think that death was going to be the outcome for you?
Oh, I always did. I always did. I kind of welcomed it, honestly, because for the longest time, I didn't really enjoy my life. I just sort of was like doing whatever I had to do to get through a day, you know, just, there wasn't no future aspirations. There wasn't no goals. There wasn't nothing to speak of that I was really trying to accomplish. I was just trying to get to the next show, trying to get along with the people I was making music with and make music again. Then I was going to get everybody paid, fill up my gas tank, and go get high. That's what I was going to do. And, it was pretty well certain that death was the outcome of that at a young age. But, you tell God your plans and he laughs. So here I am today, 44 years old, 5 years sober. And I feel younger and more alive now than I've ever felt in my life. It's kind of crazy.
Wow. Well, and of course, congratulations on that. And do you find like when people come and hear your story and hear your music that maybe they feel an ounce of hope that they didn't feel before?
Some people do. I was just talking to somebody about this earlier. It just depends on the person and the path they're on. Like I've even had people get upset with me for changing my life, because they didn't come to my show to hear that. They came there to, hear country music and drown their sorrows. And they felt like I went too far into the light. And I was like, that's only happened to me once ever. But to see that outcome, even out of one person, makes me see that that's a possible outcome. It just shows the wide range of the paths people are on. You know what I mean? Because for the most part, people tell me it gives them hope and it makes them think and it makes them want to do better. And, I've had people tell me that and I can see in their eyes they mean it. I've had people tell me that and I can see in their eyes that they really want to mean it, but they're not really there yet.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in their eyes where they're just blowing smoke up my butt. I mean, it just depends on the human, where they've been and where they're going. It's just, when it comes to getting sober and stuff like that, you can hear about other people's lives. Really want, you can really want to, you can really want to, but unless you actually want to, you're not going to get no help. Like I was telling somebody earlier, there's three kinds of people that go to rehab. There's people who are court ordered to go to rehab. There's people whose family makes them go to rehab. And then there's people who generally want to get help. And that third person is going to get help. Them other two people are just filling a bed, you know? I'm not saying they always don't get help, but I'm saying it's more times if you force somebody to go to rehab, they just meet another connection. You know what I mean? They actually have to want it. The cure to addiction lies within the addict. They have to want it. You know what I mean? I had to want it. If somebody would have forced me to go to rehab, I would have went in there and met more people to get drugs from. You know what I mean? But
Wow.
I went because I wanted to. I wanted to get help because I'd had enough. I knew this wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. I wanted to, I wanted to get the woman I love back. I wanted to get to know God a little better. And I wanted to bring all my kids home and be a father. And that's what I did. And doing the best I can. I'm not saying my life's perfect right now, but I'm saying it's a hell of a lot better than it used to be.
Well, what about the track Billboard Jesus? I know you've mentioned God a lot. That's a very striking title, catchy. So, what's the backstory for that song?
Well, I know I mentioned West Ship quite a few times. He's a guy I write with quite a bit. Me and him been down the same path. And I was thinking about putting out a gospel album about this time last year, and it was like, but after a long soul searching, you got to realize when it comes to a music career, you want, you want to praise God. You want to put God out front, but you don't want to get stuck into, my whole deal is like, think about Jesus himself. Okay. Jesus, when he came, he didn't come to the people who were clean. He came to the people who needed him. You know what I mean? So if I go start singing gospel music to the Christians, what effect is that going to have? You know, you want to sing songs to people who are not yet saved and lead them to the Christians instead of, you know, like if you want to be you want to be recognized as an orange M&M, the last thing you want to do is go run and jump into a big bowl of orange M&Ms, you know? So what I was trying to do is I'm trying to proclaim my faith and my love for family and country, all in a nice package out here to people who need to hear it. You know what I mean? who also feel the same way. And a lot of times they're just afraid to do it. You know what I mean? Afraid of being judged, or they think things that aren't real about other people. Because a lot of times we judge books by the cover. And, like my perfect example of that is like first time I ever played Bike Week. I had just gotten out of rehab and I had learned Hallelujah. And I loved that song. It saved my whole life. And my kids learned it and they sing it with me every night. But the very first time I sang that song live was at Bike Week, and I was scared to death to sing it there. I was like, these bikers are gonna boo me off stage, you know? And to see everybody light up and all the hands go up in the air and me be completely wrong of what the outcome is gonna be there showed me that we are bound by our own fears, you know? A lot of times we are scared to do things in fear of being judged by people that we don't truly understand, you know? So when it comes to songs like that, I'm trying to sing them to show people that there is a strong belief in God out there, you know? There's a strong belief in right over wrong. And, you know, a lot of times the news or life or society or everything will make you believe that it's all lost. You know what I mean? The whole world's going to hell in a handbasket. And it's just not the truth. Everybody's just sitting around waiting on Jesus to come home, you know? And as long as people realize that they're not alone in doing that, we'll all come together. And that's what I'm trying to do. I just throw a good gospel song in there or a good song that mentions Jesus and the way he's worked in my life in there. And, you know, kind of draw people into that and give people a little sense of not being alone in it. You know what I mean? Because for the most part, I believe that most people believe in God and I believe that most people want to do the right thing. I just feel like a lot of people feel like they're alone in that feeling, you know?
So have you found that it helps you in your recovery? Like, is this part of your recovery to see the impact that your story and keep planting those seeds, of like if you sing a song and maybe that's the first chance that people have heard about God or the impact that he can have on a life. Is that important to you as you move forward?
100%. 100%. I mean, I tell everybody every night, I'm about God, family, and country in that order, and I always put God first. I always and put my family second, and then I put my country right after that. And my career has been something that I don't want to get consumed by. You know what I mean? I don't want to ever think that it's me doing this, you know, because I'm just a chess piece in this game, man. I mean, we've all got to realize this is God's plan. It's not our plan. As much as we want to be in control, we're not. We're really not. We are tools being used, being pulled out of a toolbox whenever needed to be used. And the sooner I realized that, the sooner everything came together a lot better because I stopped ever worrying about being greedy. I stopped ever because I live very, very modestly, you know. I drive a nice car. I live in an okay neighborhood. I mean, I live in a very, very wholesome neighborhood with around great people. It's a great little neighborhood with full of trustworthy people that's good to raise your kids in. My kids go to okay schools, they're good schools, and that's good enough for me. I don't want to be living in Beverly Hills, driving Maseratis and being dipped in diamonds with these necklaces that are weighing my neck down and all this stuff. I want to, I want to live my life in a way that my kids can see is the best way to live your life. You know what I mean? And I want them to follow suit. Whether they do or not, it's up to them. But I'm trying to be the best example I can possibly can be for my family. And I think I'm doing okay at it these days, you know?
Awesome. So what's next for you, career wise? What's the plan?
I'll put out a new album, keep on touring, and wait to see what God has in store for me, man. That's it. Yeah, I mean, I do my work and I follow, you know, I follow the path laid out before me. I don't try to veer off of it, you know. Like this year, I mean, I went to like probably 5 or 6 different writing sessions with 5 or 6 different writers, and I'm like, I need some rockers. I need a Wild Child. I need a 10-day run. I need Jekyll and Hyde. I need some rockers. I gotta get these people moving this year. And then we sit down and we come up with some of the deepest, most heartfelt songs we've ever written in our lives, you know. And I got a couple fun songs in there, and I got a couple, kind of sexy songs in there. But the fact that I went in there looking for one thing and I came out with another tells me this is not my plan. It is not
Yeah.
my plan. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. You know, I've got I've got my small part in it. I get to make a decision on whether to go against my heart or go for my heart. I get to who to include into it, who not to include into it. But ultimately, the outcome is already laid out before me. So I've got to realize that. That's not saying don't put everything you got into it, because that's the plan too, is for you to put everything you got into it. But to say, I've got to quit doubting myself. Like Jekyll and Hyde, before that came out, before I went into the studio, I was the whole time, I was like, these songs are not good enough. This album is going to cost me a lot of money and it ain't going to be that good. It's just going to be horrible. And then I went to the studio and just like said a prayer with all the guys in the studio, and we started knocking out these songs, and it was like, it turned into something I never expected it to turn into. I was like, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. And until then, I thought the EP before that was the greatest thing I ever did in my life. And I'm not saying that this next one's going to be better or worse than any of them. All I know is that this next one's going to be exactly what it's got to be. You know, it's going to be, it's going to be fantastic. I know, because I've been going over these songs the last few days, tightening them up and getting the lyrics exactly right. It's like, I thought I had it narrowed down to the ones I was going to cut, and then 3 different friends of mine called and gave me 6 more songs. So I got to look at these and go. So I'm like, you never know what it's going to be until it is what it is. And it's just
Yeah.
that's the job. The job is to love what you do, pour your heart into it, and trust in God that He's going to guide you down the right path. And that's what I've been doing. So what the future holds for me is what God lays out for me. That's what I hold.
Well, I mean, definitely looking back at your, from the dark side to now, you must be very, very proud of yourself, because it is not an easy task to pull yourself out of addiction or out of the darkness.
Yeah, but like I said, I didn't pull me out of nothing. God did, man. It's just all I did was follow the path laid out before me. You got to look kind of hard to find it sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
but it's there. You got a lot of people, they just constantly fight against that. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the path. I know that's the path. To hell with that path. I'm going, I'm going over here, and it's like something you get addicted to doing. It's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's kind of a prideful thing. But when you give it all up to God and you lay it all down, you're like, okay, I'm going to do what you want me to do now. Then it just all kind of feeds into itself. It turns into something beautiful. And I'm not saying it turns into all roses and sunshine and everything just like the movies, the sky parts and the flowers all come out of the ground and butterflies and birds and all this. It doesn't do that. Okay. It does to a certain extent. It gets better than it was, but you're still going to have all these constant battles that you got to go through, and that at the time you're fighting these battles, you're like, why are you doing this to me? But when you go through it and you realize how much stronger you are once you get through it, you realize the answer to that question has always been to build you. You know, you gotta grow. You got to be stronger than you were. In order to do that, you got to face things you don't want to face. It's hard. It's really hard. It puts gray hair on your head, puts wrinkles on your face. It makes your knees creak. It makes you tired. It makes you have nightmares. But at the end of the day, you could just be sitting there staring at a wall, you know? You got to be grateful for the life you're living. You got to be grateful for the people you're living it with. You just got to be grateful you're able to do what you love for a living. And, no matter how hard it gets, you're always going to wake up in the morning until you don't. It's just the way it is.
Well, to young musicians out there, that maybe are considering this career path, do you have any advice for them?
You gotta love it. You gotta do it for the right reasons. Don't go out there chasing fame. Pour your heart into the songs you write. Pour your soul into your performance. Don't go out there and just partially perform. Go out there and give everything you got. If you ain't feeling like you fixing to die when you get off that stage, you didn't do enough. You go out there and you put it all out there. In order for you to get your songs through to these people, they got to feel what you felt when you wrote them. So you got to be 100% in. You can't just go out there and just, I'm going to be famous. No, you're going to be who you are. You're going to do the best you can do to be the best you can be. And if that makes you famous, God bless you. If it don't, that don't mean stop because you're still you, you know. Not everybody makes it big. I never did. I'm doing okay, but, you know, I made it years ago. The moment I gave my life to God, started doing this for the right reasons. And I'm able to support my family doing what I do. And that's good enough for me. And that's what has to be good enough for you as a musician. It's just, you have to be able to see reality. I'm not saying don't chase your dreams all the way to the moon, but also be real to yourself, be true to yourself, and don't let somebody change you just because you think that path is going to get you there faster. Be you, and that'll be good enough.
Well, this has certainly been a great, uh, you know, episode, and just to hear your backstory and hear about your music, and good advice. Definitely good advice for everyone, whether they're trying to be a musician or some other path of just being yourself and, allowing God to lead that, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So, any last words you want to share before we say goodbye?
Yeah, my team told me that I need to push my shows. So, so what I need everybody to do is go to www.wheyjennings.com. That's WHEYJENNINGS.com. And scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see my entire schedule down there. I'll be all over the country this year. I'm going to Arizona and California this week. I'll be in North Carolina and Pennsylvania the following week. No, I'll be in Arizona for the next 2 weeks. Then I'll be in North Carolina and Pennsylvania the following week after that. Then I'm down in Texas. So if you don't think I'm coming to you, I am. I'll be all over the place. I'll even be in Alaska, North
Wow.
Dakota. I'll be all over the place. So just come on out to a show and when you're on my website, go ahead and watch all the videos that are on there too, because we work hard on them things. If you find one you think might help somebody, send it on over to them. Yeah.
Great. Well, one question I did have for you, the backstory of your name. I never have met anyone named Way before. So I was curious, like, does it, were you named after someone, or how did that name come to be?
Well, my mom and dad both gave me two different stories. So, and they're both not here, not with us anymore. My mama said that she named me after. See, the thing about it, in my family, the oldest son of the oldest son carries the initials WAJ. Okay, so my grandfather, his oldest son is my dad, and they broke tradition with him because he was out on the road whenever my dad was born, and my grandmother named him Terry Vance. And his relatives growing up told him he better get it right and name his son W.A. and get it back on track. So he didn't want to name me Waylon. He didn't want to name me Willie. He didn't want to name me Wyatt or Walter. And he was sitting there eating a bowl of cereal, and in the ingredients he seen Whey. And he was like, "That'll work." And you named me that, is what he said. Now my mom says that she named me after Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet. Eating their curves and Whey. I mean, it's like either way is a horrible way to name a kid, but but I fought for this name my whole life, so I decided to keep it.
It's a
And
great
then,
name, really. I never had heard it before, and I thought, I wonder, where it came from.
I'll tell you what,
Interesting.
nowadays I'm older and I work out quite a bit. I go to the gym every day, and after I go home, after the gym, I drink a big old glass of me every day. So there you go. And whey
Yeah.
protein, I drink it every day. So
Yeah.
there
Well,
you
you could be a sponsor, you see. That's what you need to say, hey, look, I've got your name. So,
Yeah, I know. I mean, everybody says I need sponsors. I'm like, hey, anybody want to sponsor me? Let me know.
well, we've got the protein shakes for you now. So,
Protein shakes. There you go. Put my mug on it. Thing about it is, in order for that to work, I got to get a little bigger. I lost all the weight, and I got to gain it back. So
all right.
if I can get bigger, they'll probably sponsor me at that point.
All right. Well, there's a goal for next year. We can talk about it. We'll have you back and, talk about like how we started a protein campaign for you.
That'll work. That'll definitely work.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for being our guest. I really enjoyed it. And, I can't wait to see where the road takes you next.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
All right. Have a good one.